Hey Diplomas, how you going? It's Ben from TAFE. I am putting together a video for you to sort of talking about deconstructing lighting, and I've got a bunch of past pictures of mine we're going to go through, and I'm going to sort of give you the keys to my camera in terms of looking for all the little clues that might help you work out how things were lit and why I lit them to hopefully make the viewer respond in a certain way. Alright, so I'm going to kick off in some of my 2012 stuff. Come on, little computer. Alright, so we got a portrait here of a cute looking man. Sort of, I use the word cute loosely. He's a character, and he is sort of one of those old town patriarch kind of characters. Great looking face on him, great character, and lit pretty much with someone. So this was at a public event in Harriettville. There was a member of the public standing just outside a camera over here, holding a flash, a single speed light, and it sort of just washed across the gentleman here and faded off that way. A clue to looking for light sources is checking out shadows, and you can see from the shadow on this fella's nose here that the light was coming in across that way, and as a nice go-to move for light, for directing an angle of light, coming in that way is usually pretty good because it gives you a nice 3D quality to the face. Picks up some of these kind of cool shadows, which are really nice for older faces with character, and it doesn't sort of cast an icky shadow on the eye. It just kind of drops it off that way. So that's that one. I'll keep on clicking. Alright, this was first day of school photo. So we were at the family's house while they're getting ready for the first day of school. I believe from memory these two were twins, and it was their first day of kindy together and sort of older siblings here. The house was just, as it is, excited and bonkers and lots of fun. So, but it was a house early in the morning, so it was pretty dark inside. So to just run with the light that was in there would have been hard. The fluorescent lights in the kitchen, sort of, they do that flickering thing where you might take a frame and people look green, you take another frame, they might look a bit orange. So I wanted a nice, safe sort of lighting that would get me through. So a lot of this was just flash pumped up into either the ceiling, because they had nice sort of whitish walls, or ceiling, or the wall behind me, and it was just sort of bouncing and turning the walls into big soft boxes, which was nice. I also had my ISO up pretty high, and what that did was dropped the higher your ISO, obviously, the more sensitive your camera is to light. So my flashes didn't have to work as hard to pump out light. I was probably at ISO 2000 or 1600 or something, and so my flashes, when they pumped light onto the wall and that light washed back over the scene, it meant my flashes didn't have to work as nearly as hard as they would have if my ISO was down to ISO 100. I was able to shoot maybe 2 or 3 frames, 4 frames even in a row, click click click. Whereas if I was at that ISO, whereas if I was down at ISO 100, I'd get, which some would argue is the best quality file, I'd only be getting like 1 click at a time. Yeah, cool. I'll keep clicking through. This is sort of an available light portrait thingy going on there. In a glider, so the sky was my softbox coming through the, a lot of this stuff, not so much augmented light, just light used on this that was there available. natural light, let's call it. Natural light again. Oh, there might have been some flash in there actually, by the look of that. I think probably coming in from this way. There's obviously plenty of light around, and he's looking up into the light, but the flash kind of helped not only just add a bit of pop, but it helped freeze the water he was in flight. Yeah, good story. Available light, no, natural light, exposed, almost overexposed to get the detail out of these shadows, and there was probably a white balance shift there from to too cloudy, or probably even shady, even though that's the middle of the day, just to bring the warmth out in the colours of these camels. Alright, some more natural light. Alright, this was cool. So this was shooting out of a window of a car, done safely with someone else driving. All my cameras sort of taped to my hands and stuff, so there was no way I could drop anything. And then I got a bit lucky. So you can see in here, he's lit, and you can tell from his sunglasses that's an added light source. I had a flash taped to his dashboard here.
It's 10 hours.
Excuse me, my computer's telling me the time. Which was then triggered by a radio slave. That one was on my camera, one was on the flash. So as we're driving along, my camera's going ping, 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 and lighting his face. I got lucky with this overpass that we went under, and sort of timed my shot just as the car was emerging, which gave it this light front and dark here, and it just kind of looked real sweet. If you're a Albury Wodonga local, these buildings don't exist anymore. They're now been knocked down, which is kind of cool to have them hanging out in the background there. Alright, this is a council meeting. Really low light, so sometimes there's just not a lot for it. You can't use flash, but you just got to screw on the ISO and hope for the best. That was like at ISO 12,800. This kind of thing is a little bit of flash in there, just kind of, I think it bounced off the tin roof, just to kick some nice wash of light in, and to wash light into these cages. I wanted to sort of make it a nice soft light source, so the light would kind of waft in here. If I was to sort of, punch direct light, just like a flash pointed straight at him, we wouldn't have lit up in here as well, and that was important to the story of the photo, I felt. Alright, I'm just going to take a moment to check everything's still recording, and it is, which is awesome. Alright, so this is underexposed photo that has been augmented, or had light added to it, by flash. If you look real close, you can obviously tell the direction of the light by looking at the subject. Shadows are on this side, so the lights come from this side. And let's look for some hot spots to try and further clue us up. The light's sort of coming this way because it's caught a bit of this pole. And I think we can even see it hidden behind this flowers, behind the flowers here. You'll notice as the further the light travels, the harsher the shadows sort of get. That's something to keep in mind. The closer the light, the more quality. You might sort of wonder why the light's in the frame, and it's not ideal, but sometimes because we're kind of, as news photographers, we were limited by, there was no sort of frame stacking and layers and masks or any of that sort of stuff. So to get the light where I wanted it, we had to sort of include it and hide it. If I were to do this shot again now, just as a photography teacher with, and we were just making a cool portrait, I could easily pop my camera on a tripod, bring flash and softbox up in here, or here, let's keep the light direction. Shoot one frame with the flash perfectly lighting our gentleman here. Take the softbox and the light out of the frame, shoot another frame, and then I could layer over the perfectly lit man into the frame that didn't have the softbox in it. Anyway, working with journalistic ethics, we couldn't really do that, but that's not to stop you. Unless you want to be a news photographer, then you got to play by the rules. Alright, cute photo of a kid shearing. What did I do here? Yeah, I was working by myself. I'm reasonably certain, and from memory, I was, it was a candid situation. It was a pretend shearing competition. I'm pretty sure I just had my arm outstretched, holding a flash, angling it in here on a very low power and reasonably high ISO, which was a combination that gave me a lot of, shots with flash in them. So I could shoot away and be reasonably certain that because my flash power there wasn't a lot of demands on my flash output, I could get a lot of shots and hopefully bag a winner, which I kind of did. I think that got on the front page. That was cool. Alright, so, shooting sport, natural light. This one was cool. Again at Harrietville, again at a different time. About 3 different sources of light in here, which you just sort of had to juggle a bit. So there is a constant light, and there is natural light, and there is some flash in there too, which was a bit tricky. But I broke it down into these couple of sections. So first up, I like to deal with the natural light, and usually it's a balance between the sync speed your camera can use its flash, can grab a frame of flash at, versus the natural light. So in an ideal world, you could drop your ISO down to 100 and then pick a shutter speed that might be it could be a thousandth of a second that kind of exposes this naturally lit area properly. However, because of this sync speed thing that a lot of SLRs have, I could only go up to 1/250th of a second here, which kind of wasn't quite enough. So you've got to expose this properly. You've got to go the rest of the way with your F number. So I might have been at like let's go at F8. A nice happy accident happened there was when this fella, a retired miner, turned his I don't know what you call this light on. It looked okay, like on a test shot. It was punching out enough light, which was cool. So when I brought the flash in, which is just on a softbox, just out of frame, all it was a matter of was just taking pot shots. So I guessed maybe 1/32nd of a power took it. It was a bit dark. Turned it up. 1/16th, bit dark. Turned it up some more. 1/8. It looked good. Once it looks good, you get them to pose, you get them to play around, and you get some photos out of it. Alright, that's sort of pretty much the same lighting setup, just moved in closer with a different lens, a longer focal length, background blurred out a bit more without having to adjust an F number, and we get a bit more detail out of this light. God, he was a cool dude. Yep. So, koala, man, 1 softbox. We're looking for shadows to give us a clue to the direction of the light. That no shadow is probably the biggest giveaway. Softbox is kind of sitting here just floating the light across there. Alrighty, no, very, very, very low natural light. Natural light again at another council meeting. Alright, tiny bit of strobe I'm going to go with. Maybe even natural light. Like I said, some of these I take a lot of photos, but if I just a matter of a really wide lens getting under the blokes working on the grill here, and then just waiting for a moment to happen like this. That was really cool. If there was flash, I'd say it would have been a reporter over here just wafting it in on a pretty low power there. Yeah. Alright, of natural light. One of the cool things that happens is when you put the sun to people's backs, depending on how intense it is, you can get this lovely kind of overexposed, really bright look. And then, because their sun's on their back, all of a sudden there's no shadows on their face, so you can sort of experiment at different shutter speeds and find an exposure that kind of gets between the two. This is a sort of really hard thing to do at midday or when the sun's really strong. This was an early morning Australia Day portrait, so the light's not as intense. Alright, natural light. Some natural light there. Alright, cool. Inside a warehouse, we've got 2 flashes going on here. We're looking for bright spots and shadows, remember, so one's kicking in here. You can see it's a bit brighter on his face here and on the hand, and then there's another sort of just a real gentle wash this way. That was a really dim warehouse. Like I'm trying to think, is there a spot where the light sort of doesn't help it out? It was a really, really, really just grey, drab kind of space, as a warehouse usually is. So to just give it more life and colour, it's flashes give it more pop, and flashes on the flash white balance give it that warmer kind of aesthetic, which helped out. Alright, farmer during flood. Flash kicking a long way from over here at a low power. Sort of, raindrops are slightly being frozen by it. The sun through the clouds is doing a great job anyway of diffusing the light, but those shadows are just filled in just a little bit, and it's just sort of, it's kind of the shot. It probably didn't need flash, but I used it anyway. Sometimes just as a bit of safety for sharpness, sometimes just to add a little bit of pop. There's a highlight there and highlights there that have probably given away that I used flash. There might even be an argument for saying that the flash came in almost square on or towards this way, just because I'm looking at those highlights there. And anyway, either way would work. Yeah. Alright, let's guess the flash here. Got lucky with a nice ping of light here. If you want to increase your chances of nice pings of light, shoot at a really small aperture like f16, f20 if you want. You're going to need a lot of light, but due to what the iris of the lens is doing, when light travels through that, it sort of predisposes it to do a lot of this cool stuff. There's a flash kicking in, wafting in that way. Tried to get a little bit higher than the bloke's nose, which was and head, which was harder because of obviously standing on a car, but we did it anyway. We might have put it on a monopod or something, just so we could get a wash of light over that eye, so we didn't lose that. Alright, how are we clicking? Yes, that's sort of direct fill flash, just off the camera, but way down, like a stop down, so it just kind of kicks in these shadows and, brings out some eyes. That was a rotten day, but for everyone. Yeah. Nightlife in the CBD, low light, but some kind of cool quality of light out there. So crank up the ISO and give give in to the grain, but enjoy the character that you get from it. A bit of flash kicking in here to help. I'm going to go from somewhere in that direction, looking at the shadow here, shadow in there. Sometimes it's cool to light a spot and get people just to, fool around in it. I had them sitting there, and then I said to them, well, could you stand up next to him? And then thought all of a sudden, it might be a cool moment if, hey, do you want to help him up? And they just ate it up and went for it. The lens there is like a 70-200 lens, which is a pretty standard sort of thing. Most of the time we're rolling around with a wide lens and a longish lens. The wide sort of was the Canon 16-35 2.8, and the long lens was the 70-200 2.8. Alright, this was just natural light, but tweaked with a white balance shift into not only cloudy, but shade, which made it ultra warm and autumny. And then I just sort of had this lad say, I just took a gamble on the fact that if he kept, I said, keep pushing your car to me, keep driving to me, that he'd get bogged in the leaves and then want to get up and walk out. And he did, and it was cool, and I was stoked. Alright, natural light, to be sure. But while you might think, oh, well, it's natural light, what I was working on there was getting on a real sort of almost obtuse angle to it. So the light's coming in there, and obviously I'm over here, which then causes a lot of cool, interesting shadows and quality of light. That's natural light right there, and a shallow depth of field and a really fast shutter speed. Cool. Alright, I'll just whiz through a couple up here. Gonna go backwards through these. Available light. Natural light. Natural light and a white balance shift just to bring that warmth in. Alright. Don't think there's any. No, that's just natural light, just and a big window, and sort of asking the subject to sit near the window while the interview was carrying on. We actually did a bunch of posed photos, but this one just seemed to come across as the most endearing. He's a retiring fireman that's done a lot of firefighting, spent his life doing it. He's putting down his glasses. There's the map of his area he's worked on. There's a bit of a logo reference there. The boss just loved it. Natural light. Cool. Natural light, but just driving out on a stormy, rainy day on my day off, thinking that, your first thought is, it's a rainy day, this is going to be rancid for photos, it's not going to work. But on these rainy days, there's often holes in clouds which just sort of light up pockets, and if you drive around and you see them, they don't last long, but you pull over and you just rip through a couple of frames, you get a reward. Natural light with a bit of direct flash. When these when an AFL game grand final finishes up and there's a team that wins, whoa, the mob just descend, and you're just in a swamp of people. So really all that is for it is just sticking your camera on the top of your camera. Sorry, I need a drink of water. Let me just grab that. All that is for is to stick your flash on the top of your camera, direct flash, maybe a stop or so under, so you're just kind of popping in shadows when you can, and you're just clicking for cool moments. And this was cool because it was this fella pointing to a tattoo of his, which is in memory of his brother, which is kind of poignant. Alright, natural light. This is a wall, which is sort of diffused glass, which is awesome. So by exposing for that, you're sort of pushing your subject into a kind of silhouette. I wanted a little bit of detail here, so I may have just pushed in like a couple of sheets of white paper or something. More likely, I think, is just I kind of was lucky with my shutter speed. I could walk to a point where there was still detail, but in the foreground, but that really good underexposure in the background to make it kind of a silhouette, but not quite. High ISO, natural light, and a white balance shift in basketball stadiums was really kind of cool. Take this photo or leave it. I kind of like it because it's a sort of a bunch of dignitaries and local politicians getting their ducks in a row before Malcolm Turnbull comes up for the official greeting. I got two photos of this. There's this one where he's doing his busy work, where he's essentially in off mode, and about 2 steps later he's in on mode. And then the next photo is it looks like a kind of royal visit. There's handshakes and all that kind of stuff. To get this was just flash into the ceiling kind of stuff, just kind of real kind of almost record light. Like it'll work. It's sexy in that it works. Sexy's a weird word. It's not really sexy light, but it's nice light, and it might be kind of safe light, but at least you're gonna get a pretty good result. Natural light. Now this is kind of almost a success in motivated lighting, which we sort of talk about. There's a flash on a stand, way sort of on a far out angle from the father here, who and this is all his reading material. So the flash just kind of wafted in, grabbed the side of his face, and you can see from the shadow there, it's way up high and it's way to camera left. So basically you find an exposure that looks after this kind of stuff, and then you just pop in a smidge of flash. I was kicking myself after I took this photo. I was thinking what would have really nailed it was if I'd turned this light on here. So the wash of flash kind of looked like it was, the light was doing the work. It would have looked like, yeah. But anyway, next time I'll learn from that. This is the same fella who's an Albury priest. I wanted the stained glass in, and of course by the time you expose for your natural light inside, which is coming from outside through a stained glass window, you're left with a lot of darkness. So there's a flash over here on a pole, just kicking in here. Again, probably could have got it a bit higher, but I think there was an actual physical something in the way, so that we were kind of stuck with that. But it did just get enough light in on the eye there, which was kind of the dream. Available light on an iPhone. Cool. So this was kind of lucky. This was a council meeting in Wangaratta. This guy is a councillor. I'm not sure if he still is, but was. He put forward a motion that sort of got very little response. He was voting on it, as the only one voting on it, just as the sun was setting, and it kind of popped through there. From experience, I knew if you crank a fairly small aperture, you get a good chance of this going on through your camera. So I did that. I probably put my white balance up to something warm to get a kind of warmth, exaggerated warmth through, and then I think it was just a pop of flash into the ceiling to kind of make the rest of the room legible. Probably natural light, maybe some flash. Natural light and a warm white balance. Cool. This is one of those cases where you just use a tiny bit of direct flash to kind of help you get everything and you get the detail. It's sort of working that principle of a reasonably high ISO and a low-powered flash gives you lots of pops of light, whereas if you were to use a really low ISO, which would produce an image of a really high quality, you'd only sort of get one chance at it. So because I did the compromise between quality and speed of my light, I was able to get this kind of pop, 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 pop as his karate chop happened, which gave me the moment. This was just lit with a lamp. Sort of, I'd learned from my lesson with the father before, and just actually used the lamp, which was sort of almost behind and coming across this way to make a sort of, which it was a tender moment anyway, and the lamp was there, and it was one of those interviews that was really hard for the reporter and sort of hard for me to be there, and hard especially for the subject. So to use the lamp helped because the flash wasn't, if to use flash that would have been more obtrusive, and the lamp just kind of helped us be there without just being a pest. This is sort of natural light but underexposed, which kind of brings out a lot of these richer colours in the sky, and the gleam of the helicopter as it comes in to save someone. That was at the same scene. This bloke is amazing. He's so cool. He's got he can't leave his bed, but he designs web pages from his bedside, and nice light washing into his room, and it was one of those scenes where at first you walk in and it's really dark and you think, I'm going to have to bring lights in. But by experimenting with pushing my ISO up nice and high, I really found a great quality of light that you almost didn't see with your eye. But so it was just a lesson in experimenting for me. Just natural light kind of falling nicely on this young man, and just an expressive face as he was watching his team sort of getting whooped around the park at the footy. Natural light sort of underexposed a bit, so you could see the bright stuff, and then maybe some lightening of these areas that went too far down in Photoshop. Alright, so one light set up here. A couple of things were going on. One, the sky was dropping in light really fast, so picking a shutter speed that would match that was quite low. I think it was down to like a 20th of a second or something, and the ISO was let's say 1,800 or something, maybe 2,000, and then balancing that with a tiny pop of flash. Now I won't, we go into this in much detail in many other places, but a rough rule of thumb is your shutter speed kind of looks after everything that your flash doesn't touch, and your aperture looks after the stuff your flash touches, plus a little bit of the ambient light as well. So even though the sky was darkening, by dropping my shutter speed, I could sort of keep it at the same kind of intensity that I wanted. And even though my shutter speed was dropping low into that handheld blur area, having that little pop of flash in there helped keep the faces sharp and exposed. Natural light under a veranda, just moving the subject close to the light. Natural light. Just a nice natural light and a warm white balance. Softbox sort of washing in that way. Yeah, really, really close to the subject, and so therefore not much shadow. The closer the light, the greater the quality and the more wrap to it. High ISO, and actually I was holding my notebook, which had a white pages open, sort of as close to the camera left as I could, just trying to bounce a bit of light back in there. That I only had seconds to make this photo before she drove off, so it was I could have used a flash, but I didn't have one in time to set it up. So what was white that could bounce light? Oh, my notebook. That's sort of the reasoning going on. That was middle of the day sort of portrait, so we're trying to balance, ambient light and get enough legibility and get a fast enough shutter speed to get the action. Alright, this is the mind blower. It was hard to work out. So this is an actual Dalek that a fan created, and it's sitting in a cinema. And it does have a reflective piece of glass in the Dalek's eye. If you've watched Doctor Who, you know what a Dalek is. It's like an evil alien thing that's going to get you. No Photoshop in this, other than sort of your levels and curves. So when I was getting in close to shoot this, I noticed this eye was reflecting sort of this much of the cinema. So after some really awkward, can you stand here? Can you move closer? Can you move left? No, your left. No, my left. Not your left, my left. Yes. There was, we eventually got to a spot where we could see these two people's faces, which were sort of key to the story. It was to do with the Doctor Who 50th anniversary special coming to town. So once I could see them, it was just a matter of working out how to get some nice light on them. So with another person we grabbed who was waiting in line for a movie, I got them to sort of angle the light onto these people, which then looked, so that made them look good in the reflection, and then you're working out a shutter speed to expose everything else.